Spending too much time with anybody will have you at odds with them, but working the grueling hours that a film set requires, it's not surprising that plenty of co-stars have started to resent each other, or at least had some choice words for their co-workers. Today, we are going to be counting down the top 10 celebrities that trash-talked their co-stars. Coming in at number 10 is Ryan Gosling. Even though he eventually went on to start dating his Notebook co-star, it's well known that Ryan and Rachel McAdams did not have a smooth start to their relationship, with Ryan getting flat out fed up by her very existence. The director of the film revealed that Ryan was actually so done with working with Rachel one day that he asked him if they could bring in another actress to read off camera with him, because he couldn't bring himself to do the scene with her because he, to quote, wasn't getting anything from her. Ugh. Ryan eventually went into a room with a producer and proceeded to scream at him. Eventually, Ryan and Rachel had it out with each other, putting their differences out on the table for them both to see, ending with Rachel standing up for herself and telling Ryan she didn't like the way he was treating her. Afterwards, the duo's relationship got better, and the director speculates it's because Ryan really respected her for standing up for herself. At number 9 is Lea Michele. In the past few years, Michelle has been confronted with accusations of bullying by her former Glee cast members. Samantha Marie Ware came forward in 2020 to accuse Michelle of making traumatic microaggressions against her, such as the silent treatment, stare downs, comments under her breath, and going so as far as to threaten to get Ware fired. Ware wasn't the only person who felt disrespected by Michelle on the set of Glee, as the late actress Naya Rivera wrote about the feud that she had had with Lea in her 2016 memoir, Sorry Not Sorry, Dreams, Mistakes, and Growing Up. She wrote that Lea didn't enjoy sharing the spotlight and had a hard time separating work from our outside friendship, causing it to sometimes seem like she blamed her for anything and everything that went wrong. Rivera continued by saying that Michelle often assumed that if Rivera were to complain about anyone or anything to the media, she'd assume Rivera was talking about her, which led to Michelle ignoring her. Although Lea was the one that talked the most trash and the hate about her co-stars in the Glee cast, she for some reason is the most successful member of the cast. But that absolutely did not come without plenty of flack from the public, and it's rumored that none of the Glee cast considers Lea a friend at this point. At number 8 is Heather McDonald. McDonald was a mainstay on Chelsea Handler's all-girl comedy show Chelsea Lately, and the duo seemed to have plenty of fun working together for the 7 years she appeared on the show. But when McDonald went on the allegedly podcast with Theo Vaughn and Matthew Cole Weiss, she admitted to feeling as though she was living in fear while working with Chelsea. Shortly after, these words made headlines, and it didn't take long for Chelsea to speak out against these claims with very little sympathy, obviously. During an appearance on the Howard Stern show, Handler told host Howard Stern she could have fired McDonald after learning she was trading personal stories about Handler in exchange for pictures of herself in Us Weekly, but chose not to. She continued by saying she hoped she was living in fear, but quote, "It's not an internment camp. If you're that fearful, then get a job." Yikes. At number 7 is ClaireDanes. The 1996 Baz Luhrmann classic Romeo and Juliet featured a pair of actors who were apparently really talented at portraying these star-crossed lovers, because as it turns out, Claire was not too fond of Leonardo DiCaprio. The actress was reported to say that she found Leo immature, and if a 17-year-old is calling a 21-year-old immature, we should probably listen to her. Her claims were due to his many pranks that he decided to pull while on set, to which she thought were unprofessional and she simply didn't care for them. Alongside her disdain for DiCaprio, he himself also didn't enjoy her company all that much as well, deeming her uptight and boring. The duo apparently barely said a word to each other on set other than what was needed for their scenes. But in true teenage fashion, it's not surprising to find out that Claire admitting to developing a crush on the boy she found a bit irritating. But even so, she said that that whole situation was problematic because it wasn't, to quote, "professional to have a crush on someone you work with professionally." Whatever. Coming in at number 6 is Bill Murray and Lucy Liu. Man, did these two have a few spats. The Charlie Angel set was allegedly filled with all sorts of drama, mostly due to Bill and Lucy butting heads all the time. Murray reportedly told Liu to her face that she couldn't act, and Liu responded to his insults by punching him. Yeah, that's pretty fair. Murray has since claimed that the reports about Leo getting physical with him were exaggerated, and they were on good terms, going on to say that they had made peace with each other and are even good friends these days. Back in 2021, almost 20 years after the scuffle took place, Leo shared her perspective on the situation while appearing on the Asian Enough podcast, saying that the altercation took place during a rehearsal of a scene that everyone but Murray knew had been rewritten, and he decided to make negative comments about the rewrites towards Leo, even though she wasn't the one responsible for the changes. Leo went on to say that some of his words were inexcusable, opting not to go too far into detail about it, but saying she felt she had to stand up for herself. Good for you, girl. At her halfway point is Dwayne Johnson. The Fast and Furious franchise apparently had some actors not feeling the latter on set. In 2016 Instagram post, The Rock went on to rant about the unprofessional behaviors of his male co-stars while filming the 8th installment of the Fast and Furious franchise. Later, TMZ reported that Johnson and Vin Diesel weren't getting along while on set together, but attempted to put their differences aside just to get their jobs done. In April 2018, Johnson confirmed the rumors in a Rolling Stone interview, saying that he never shot scenes in person with Diesel, and that scenes featuring both their characters were the result of editing, which, knowing that, probably makes the movies even more ridiculous to watch. Johnson went on to say that the disagreements between him and Vin were due to a fundamental difference in philosophies in regards to movie making. Man, actors, am I right? While Johnson noted the pair had mostly made up, he did go on to say that although he wishes him the best because of the clarity they found in those discussions, he still harbors some ill will towards Vin. This feud between the boys meant that the audiences were pretty surprised when Dwayne showed up in the post-credit scenes in Fast X. Johnson himself confirmed that he would be appearing in the next installment in the franchise and said that he and Vin had simply put all of the past behind them. Coming in at number 4 is Nicollette, Sheridan, and Teri Hatcher. One of the most notorious rivalries in Desperate Housewives was between Eddie Britt and Susan Mayer, but apparently the actresses playing the characters didn't have to do too much acting, because apparently those ladies couldn't stand each other off set as much as they couldn't on set. Apparently whatever animosity there was between Eddie and Susan paled in comparison to the real-life hostility between Sheridan and Hatcher. Reportedly, Sheridan didn't really get along with any of her co-stars, even finding reasons to dislike the show's creator and producer Mark Cherry. Eventually, Sheridan's hostility got on his nerves so much that Cherry decided to eliminate Sheridan's character, writing her off the show entirely. Writing off an actor or an actress is a regular occurrence on TV shows, but in this particular instance, Sheridan did not take this lying down and opted to sue Cherry for wrongful dismissal. During the trial, Cherry took the stand and recounted some of the arguments that happened during this filming, recalling a moment when Sheridan and Teri Hatcher were furious with each other, and Sheridan went so far as to pull Cherry aside and tell him that Teri Hatcher was the meanest woman in the world because of how she was acting. However, Cherry was prevented by Sheridan's lawyers from further recounting the feud in his testimony. The feuding within the cast wasn't just between these ladies, it was a common occurrence between all of the leads, and it was so notorious that a Desperate Housewives cover shoot for an issue of Vanity Fair was captioned, "You wouldn't believe what it took just to get this photo." At number 3 is Ariana Grande. Before Ariana Grande was the face of pop music, she was a Nickelodeon star playing a high schooler, Kat Valentine, on the sitcom Victorious, with the Victoria Justice starring as the lead, Tori Vega. Tori and Kat were best friends throughout all 4 seasons of the show, but apparently there was tension brewing between them during the entire run. Both actresses claim that they kept any quarrels between them low-key, claiming that any attention given to their passing snide comments about one another or the odd, innocuous social media post was really quite unjustified. However, it's hard to dispute some of the more blatant shade throwing. Some fans blamed Sam and Kat for the eventual end of Victorious, but Grande suggested it was the opposite of true. When asked on social media why Victorious ended, Grande wrote that apparently the only reason Victorious ended was because, quote, "one girl didn't want to do it as she chose to do a solo tour instead of a cast tour," going on to say that if they had done a cast tour, Nickelodeon would have ordered another season of Victorious while Sam and Kat filmed simultaneously. It could have just been a huge coincidence that Victoria Justice happened to go on her own solo music tour immediately after the conclusion of the series. However, Justice seemingly confirmed Grande's post was about her when she wrote on Twitter that apparently some people would throw someone they consider a friend under the bus just to make themselves look good, which obviously is directed at Ariana's previous statement. The stars' back and forth never became more confrontational than that, but their lack of a real-life friendship has been apparent in the years since the show has ended. Our runner-up is TJ Miller. The comedian reportedly called Ryan Reynolds horrifically mean while they were on the set of Deadpool, going on to publicly expressing not wanting to ever work with Reynolds again. The comment that had Miller feeling a little disheartened was when Reynolds, apparently in character but in reality just saying the comment comment directly to Miller that he wasn't funny and didn't have star quality and should just, quote, leave so everyone can get back to the real movie. Miller went on to call Reynolds kind of an insecure dude. After hearing that Miller was hurt by his comment, Reynolds reached out to Miller and apologized, and both dudes now just looking at the whole scuff as nothing more than a misunderstanding. And at our #1 spot is Alice Wetterlund, who, speaking of TJ Miller, was apparently not so fond of her Silicon Valley co-star. Alice had all sorts of choice words for TJ, including calling him a bully and a petulant brat, describing working with him as kind of a nightmare, and saying his male co-stars often enabled him in making derisive and offensive remarks. Miller had left the show at this point in what was said to be a mutual decision. And that brings us to the end of the top 10 list of celebrities that trash talk their co-stars. Let us know if we forgot anybody in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you guys in the next one.